Hi, my name is Ted. Welcome to Jibe Talking. We're coming to you from Jolly Roger Sailing Club in beautiful Toledo, Ohio. Today when I came in, I saw 3 manatees at the dock. I saw a dolphin. And no, not really. We're located in Toledo, Ohio right now. I'm coming to you. It is March. St. Patty's Day is next week, so it's the 11th today, and it's still pretty cold here. We had snow yesterday, and now it's warming up, but we're all starting to get a little antsy about putting our boats in. And today, I have a special guest, as usual. They're special, and I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Leslie Deach. I am a local sailor, and I helped Jolly Roger with their sailing program, teaching the youngsters how to sail several years ago.
Yes, and she's got an awesome story about how they went to Italy and took the juniors to Italy to do some racing. And I wanted to have her on to talk about that because I thought that just was pretty fascinating to me. Now, how long did you actually help with the juniors? I know that's kind of, a lot of people spend a couple years and...
I think it was 3 or 4 years that we worked together with the kids. My husband and I ended up working predominantly with the kids from the ages of, I think we had an age limit of 6 all the way up to 18, and we were working primarily with Opti kids, getting them on the water, getting them comfortable on the water, and building their confidence and their skill set. Out here on the river with Jolly.
Now, you sail out of North Cape now, right?
Both of my girls ended up going up to North Cape after they left the Opties.
Yep. The reason I wanted to mention that is sometimes people think, the clubs don't get along. We do get along very well. So when people are on here and talk about, they'll say, can I say that? I say, absolutely. We were talking about Monroe Boat Club earlier today. We were talking, this end of the lake, the boat clubs are pretty tight-knit. And when it comes time to race, we compete. But at the end of the day, we're all looking to do the same thing, promote boating, promote sailing. So how long, then you said 3 or 4 years?
Yep.
Okay. And then it was during that time, how did this thing with Italy come about? Let's just start there. It just sounds awful cool to me.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, did you get to go to the Vatican?
We did later, yes.
Okay, because I'm not Catholic, but I got to say, if I ever went to Italy, I would love to go to the Vatican. So even though that's not sailing related, people, we're going to ask about that. But go ahead.
Yes.
How did this come about?
So at the time, we had a volunteer, a woman who had actually coached Opti teams from the West Coast. She had come in and she was looking to get involved. So she volunteered with our Opti sailers.
That is awesome.
And it was amazing. Her name was Ms. Beamer. And
is she around this part of the state now, or did she move?
Yes. She has since moved on from working at one place. Now, I believe that she was moved to working at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
So she's still local.
All right.
But I've kind of lost touch with her over the last several years.
Okay.
So she had experience working with kids from some of the bigger boat clubs on the coast in California, and told us, hey, we should take the kids to Italy. So I said, well, that sounds interesting. There's no way that our kids are ready for this, but tell me about this. So there is an Opti, it's a meeting at Riva del Garda on Lake Garda in Italy, and they do this every Easter. And you don't have to qualify for this race, which was great because I knew that our kids were just going to be strong participants, but yet participants in this event. And every year they work to get more and more kids on the water at the same time. Riva del Garda is a very large lake. It's not nearly like a great lake or anything, but there's plenty of room for all the kids. The year that we went, they broke the Guinness Book of World Records of having over 1,400 kids on the water at one time racing their sailboats. So it was chaos. So the biggest part that once we realized that this could happen, my husband and I talked about it. We offered it up to all of the juniors and said, there are 2 classes. It's based on your age group. There's the cadetti group, which is the younger group, and the juniors, which is the little bit older group. And you could see kids on the water. You can be in your Opti with the Opti Class Association until you're 15 years old. So with that, we had plenty of kids offered the opportunity, and we ended up 3 of our juniors here did go to Italy.
Now, were they opties? All
Yes,
opties?
all
This was
opties.
all opties.
This is an all opti regatta.
Word.
And it was, like I said, it was like chasing cats. It was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. As far as
So they didn't
sailing.
have all 1,100 race at once, obviously.
No, they did. They put every kid on the water every day. The kids were they
That
practiced.
must have been an exciting start.
They ranked them. So they
staged them. Everybody didn't start at once, though.
No, but they had various race courses, and they would say they had 5 race courses, and they would have 100 kids in a line, and that 100 kids would sail out. That's the those are the kids that would race against each other for that particular race. And then as soon as they took off, the next ones would be lining up and getting ready to go. The courses were pretty big. The courses were so far off shore that as adults we could not see. And Lake Garda, you cannot have a power boat over a certain motor size. So we didn't have the opportunity to go out and watch our kids. It was only for the racers.
How many chase boats would they have in a situation like that?
We teamed up with a group out of the Midwest that had coached with Scott Norman was the group that we ended up going with. And he had about 10 to, I think he had 15 kids that had been training, most of them all year long. They do these big regattas like this. So our kids were kind of new, and he knew that we were new and green to this whole world. So they took care, obviously, to get their kids, they're very competitive kids, to the front of these packs, but helped our kids get around the course. So for I think they had 3 chase boats for the 15 kids that we had. Now that was a good split between, say we had 10 in the juniors and 5 in the cadettes. So the cadettes had their own group, their own chase boat. But with each chase boat, there were at least 2 adults in those chase boats going pretty fast.
So how many races a day would they do? And for how many days were you there, I guess?
The kids practiced Monday through Thursday, and then it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday that they raced. And one of the reasons that Lake Garda is the chosen lake, and it's known worldwide as being a very quality lake to sail on, is because of the winds pick up throughout the course of the day, and it's consistent wind through the entire day, because of the mountains and the elevation change, because there's a constant, they call it the ORO wind that comes through. And with that, there's just they expect a constant all the time. And that constant was there, and it's breezy, it's very breezy. And it was probably more than what our kids had practiced in for any length of time out here. But they went out and they did what they could and all of that. But as soon as the races began on that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was like the wind turned off. So all of this preparation with heavy winds just turned off. And mind you, this was in March. This was Easter of 2018, and it was the end of March, beginning of April, so it's cold. All of these kids are in dry suits. They're layered up. They're in dry suits. The water's splashing over. They don't speak each other's language. So when they're cruising around the course, they're actually we had to supply our kids with handheld radios, like walkie-talkie type radios, so that they could communicate if they did have a problem. Now, of course, all of the race boats from all over the country, or all over the world, I should say, we're always looking out for the other kids. These are kids. Everybody knows they're just kids. But there were times where my daughters were actually off course and did not have access to their own coaches on the water, when I believe it was a Danish coach gathered Cecilia up, for example, and took her to her team that was practicing. So this was quite an experience for our kids. I do feel that while it was an amazing experience for our kids, and we were not last, we were not the dead last kids of all of this, and I'm very proud to say that we went and they had this experience. I don't know if they would say that they had enough experience to go do it again.
So here's a question that begs asking, like, how do you, since you can't really transport your Opti, how do you get a boat?
So that's why we went with the group that we did. They had at least 10 or 15 years experience doing this already. And what they do is secure from a boat manufacturing company. They will secure the boat and you charter the boats. So you charter the boat, all the rigging is separate, everything is separate. So that was part of the fees to get to Italy, was to obviously have that. But we did have to bring our own sails. So
interesting.
We transported 3 sails. We actually transported more than that. I think we transported 5 sails in case we had a breakdown for our kids, because we wanted to give them every opportunity. But we had to check them on the plane, switching planes, getting from, we flew into Milan and getting that to Lake Garda on this bus that we had to rent to get everybody there. So it was quite the experience. And then after the races, we ended up checking that and shipping the sails home, so that we didn't have to.
Where did you stay when you were actually there at the races?
When we were there, we had Airbnbs. Our 2 of the kids stayed in Airbnbs with their families. That would be my husband and I, and they were small apartments, so we could walk back and forth to the lake where we were dropping off the boats and the kids, and then one stayed hotels. But it's this town is so used to having these kids come in. You could leave the kids as soon as they got off the water. Of course, they're cold, they're hungry. It's been a long day of practicing or racing, and they're exhausted. So we would bring them back in, get them something to eat, let them rest for a while. And there were always events because this is such a big deal. There were many sponsors, but they would all come in, and there would be a little communication back and forth with different teams in different countries and whatnot. But overall, they were pretty much on their, like our team was on our own, and they'd rest, and then they would get up at night and we would let them go get gelato in the square or whatever. So they had that a little bit of freedom. Now, mind you, that's in 18, so my daughters were much, obviously younger. So I think Mallory was 10 and Cecilia was 11, and the youngest one had just turned 9. You know what? You might need to cut this out, but the youngest, Elise, she'd just turned 9 right after that. So I think maybe 12 and 13. My daughters were 12 and 13. Okay. So the most amazing part, and I really want to stress this, and I hope this becomes part of it, is the amount of support. Once the families decided that this is what they were going to do, the amount of support that came from Jolly Roger, AYC, and ILYA to get these 3 kids there, all knowing 100% that these kids were going to do their very best, but also knowing they're not at the top of their fleet. They knew that. And yet everybody at the club was so supportive. They were attending fundraisers. AYC members from various clubs were coming in to support these kids. There was a send-off party that happened for these kids. There were people that were giving them like little Catholic charms and whatnot to keep them safe on the water. The amount of support financially and just mental, emotional support that these kids had was tremendous. And with that, it was my job to get the kids in front of the membership or in front of AYC or in front of ILYA to give them that opportunity. And all 3 kids had the opportunity and took the opportunity to speak to a room full of adults at least once, to give them that kind of experience of being able to communicate who they are, what they're doing, and what they need. And that kind of experience with this kind of an age group is phenomenal. Now, I can say proudly, one of the sailors that went to Italy has now competed at a collegiate level. She's competing. She's still on the sailing team. Her freshman year, she's at Michigan Tech, and they competed well. The other one is still in high school, and she has competed very well in the ILYA ranks, and actually went to nationals last year. And she's also, Mallory has now committed to a life on the water. She's doing maritime transportation. That's what she'll be going into. And the third one, the one that was turning 9, has just been accepted to Notre Dame here in school for high school.
That's
so
awesome.
I think the experience of not only preparing them to go, but also having that experience, whether they look back on it as being as prepared as not, has really, I think, given them experience for life, to give them, to be able to handle the storms that might happen when they're out at sea, or to handle the life situations that they might encounter.
How many countries
amazing.
do you think were there?
I think there were 15 countries there.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the days in the evening, and we were prepared for this because of the group that we were with, we brought a lot of, memorabilia or anything that said the United States on it, because they had a big trading thing. All
They
these
did at
kids.
the Olympics a lot, I guess, with pins.
Yeah, they traded for, like, my life jacket has the United States flag on it. You have a different life jacket. They traded that. They traded candies that were only available here versus elsewhere. My daughter still wears a jacket that she traded something for, and it's from the Italy team. They had T-shirts that they got. So it was just a really interesting experience for them all the way around.
That
Very
sounds
cool.
like really nice.
Yeah, it was a crazy time for sure in our lives, that just to decide that we're going to go, and then realize all of the support, and then the support when we're there, the other families that had been there. So yeah, it was quite the undertaking, I guess, for all of us.
Okay, so now the sailing is done. Mm-hmm. Okay, and where else did you get to go?
After the sailing was done, both families decided to go on to tour Italy. So we took trains and whatnot, and our family went to Florence first for a couple days, and then we went to Rome for a few more days, and we did go see the Vatican, and we saw the Colosseum. We did tours, like the Vatican. If you're going to go to the Vatican, I'm just telling you this, get a guided tour, because they're going to tell you the history. They're going to tell you the art that's there. I'm not Catholic either, but I went just because of the experience.
Stuff, the
yes, it's phenomenal. And then since we were there, we went to Milan for the last several days, which was incredible as well. So we did several guided tours when we were there. The other family did not do as many guided tours, and they went down the Amalfi Coast. I think that's how you say it. On a bus tour.
Because I don't know.
Because that's something that they wanted to do. And then we met up again in Rome, celebrated the 9th birthday in Rome, and then we headed to Milan, and they headed home. So we took advantage of the time that we were there. So the first week was all sailing, and for us, the second week was more of the tour.
What about food? What was some of the interesting food you had?
I go right back to where we were in Garda, because you're right next to the Alps. So you're so far north that you get a lot of the German and Scandinavian food. Switzerland, a lot of Swiss food. We did a lot of smorgasbord type charcuterie boards. The one night on Wednesday during that week, the Wednesday was the free day, so we ended up going to a mountain called Mount Baldy, and it's all snow-covered peaks. So we went up, took a gondola all the way up to the peak, and had dinner up there. the food was phenomenal. You know, the fresh fish. It wasn't as pasta heavy as what it was in Rome, but Florence is known for beef. So, of course, we had to have beef, and, you know, there's great leather stands and all that in Florence.
Interesting.
And then Rome is more of your sauces and the tomatoes and that kind of thing. So we enjoyed that there. Milan is the most Western European town, I think, because the streets are wider, and I think a lot of that was because of Napoleon made it there. You know, like he was able to make his way all the way there with the French influence there. So the streets are wider, a lot more Western stuff going on there than there was in Florence and Rome, as well as, and Lake Garda. I kind of consider Lake Garda would be like Traverse City for that part of Europe, where it's vacation land. Okay. There's hiking, sailing every weekend. There's regattas every weekend because they're known because of the water. But they've got the mountains that are around it. There's hiking. They've built paths through where there's biking. It's very becoming more of that eco-tourist kind of a town where they're doing that.
Do they sail year round then?
I believe they do. Yeah, there's no ice.
Lake.
It's freshwater lake.
It doesn't freeze?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, there's eels in it, though. It's weird.
Freshwater eels?
Mm-hmm. There's eels.
Do they shock you, those kind of eels?
I don't think so. We did a little bit of research, but no. I wanted to find out what kind of fish were in there, but no.
You probably didn't have time to do anything but sailing anyways.
They did sailing. We basically dropped the kids off and bid them adieu, and then the parents were on their own for hours during the day. Obviously, always watching to see if we needed to come get our kids or anything. But yeah, we went, got groceries. There were like hikes that my husband and I did, and
that just sounds great.
It was amazing. There was a little yacht club where this is kind of like comes and goes to, but there was a little yacht club on the water, and we ate there. But just normal people doing normal things. This is just what they do on the weekend.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd want to add? This was awesome. I mean, I didn't know anything about this.
It was just a very unique experience, and if it wouldn't have been for the support that we had from Jolly Roger, giving it 100% behind these kids, we would have never been able to share that experience. We'd never been able to do that without them.
Well, thanks for coming in, and I guess we're done.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was
Thanks
great.
for the opportunity.
That was awesome.